I got stuck behind not one, not two, but 3 trains in our tiny little town that has less than 5,000 people, or maybe it's just over 5,000 people. And what I thought was one heck of an inconvenience actually was an indicator that I have a very fast pace compared to the rest of the world. And it's so interesting because I love nature. Like, put me in nature, water, animals, searching for seashells. I don't care what kind of nature, like, put me in it and I will entertain myself for hours. And actually, I'm sitting here right now, and this is so interesting. There's a groundhog. Bo, do you see the groundhog over there? Bo, my little buddy's with me. Do you see the groundhog? It's like over by in front of the red barn.
Yeah.
Cool, huh? Yeah. And so, like, since I had this 3 train lesson, I was talking about it with my coach, and she just brought it to my attention that it was actually my pace that it was highlighting and not resistance to the direction that I was going. Because, you know, I've told you before that I like to look at resistance as confirmation I'm going in the right direction, which I think is true when we're going against the flow of things. But when it comes down to it, on a daily basis, in little things here and there, I think it opened my eyes to just my own pace. And my coach helped me see that, you know, this wasn't an inconvenience. This wasn't resistance to the direction I was going. This was literally a prompt to show me that my pace is too fast. And I jokingly said, my glasses here. I jokingly said that I have 2 speeds, either high speed, breakneck, or sleeping. And it's funny, but it's not funny, because that's hustle, that's burnout, that's all the things. And it really showed me that I need to slow down. And it's so interesting though, because also I've been exploring rest, and what I have considered rest over the years has been like a cheap dopamine version. So like checking out, scrolling my phone, disassociating, watching TV shows, all the things, right? Like, that don't actually fill my cup, but just help me to more so numb, right? Like numb, and are considered healthy, like socially acceptable and healthy, right? Like, it's not that I was numbing with anything, you know, and there have been times in my life where I did. I mean, alcohol is an easy one. Food is an easy one, you know, never done like drugs. So I haven't done that, but you know, there's a lot that we can numb with that doesn't give us rest, but it's like this fake counterfeit rest, and it's not real, true, deep rest that fills our cup. And so it was brought to my attention that my pace is not the world's pace, in the sense like of the natural world, right? Like, the natural world, things move pretty steady, right? Like, I mean, there are times when things move faster, but typically, you know, like, even just the example of this animal over here, like, he's not frantically running around. He's not like digging holes and throwing things and like just doing all this stuff and like checking all his boxes. Like, he's literally just chilling there and munching on whatever groundhogs eat. I don't know. What do groundhogs eat, Bo?
Mom,
bugs?
They don't eat bugs.
They don't eat bugs. What do they eat then?
They eat wood.
Oh, I think that's beavers. I think you're confusing it with beavers. But, you know, the natural world isn't rushing around. They're like, even if you just look at animals that are like grazing or searching for things, like, they're moving pretty slow. Even hummingbirds that are like super high speed, right? Like, their wings beat so fast, like they have to keep eating or else they like die. Like, I don't know, I learned that. They're still, though, even in their high speed, they're still moving naturally in a natural pattern for them. And so I think the 3 trains really highlighted that I had created or forced this pattern of just hurriedness and always rushing. And I never stopped to think or even ask the question of, do I even like this pace? Right. And I think there have been moments where like our pace, like last year when we first, our kids were in sports for like the first time. I think that was the first time that a high speed pace really was highlighted. And, and we had to ask some hard questions of like, is this what we want to do? And, it was just really, really interesting. So I think the 3 trains really highlighted how, and last year, with the kids in their sports really highlighted like my pace. And then like, here's the thing with it, like my pace, I was choosing it. And I think when the sports came in, it's like all of a sudden I wasn't really in charge of choosing it in the sense of like, I didn't go out and say like, this is what we're going to do and this is going to be our schedule. Whereas like when it comes to my pace that I've set for myself, that is breakneck speed a lot of times, I chose all those things, right? And so these trains just highlighted that my pace is way too fast. And it's been causing me to live in this state of rush, check boxes, get stuff done. And it's so funny because it's been in not competition, but it's been like butting heads with the intention and the belief that like, look for margin, create margin, like actually see people, right? Because when we're in a hurry all the time, we don't see people. And if you think of Jesus was never in a hurry, right? Like he was doing his thing. Like, yeah, he had places to go and he was definitely on his way, but he always saw people and interacted with people. And when we're hurried all the time, like we can't do that. And also along those same lines, last week's episode was about emotional health and how it can very much blunt our growth in business. When we're not slowing down, when we're stuck in that hustle mentality, we're not slowing down to check in with like, how am I feeling? Like what, I'm not giving myself real rest here because I'm not slowing down enough to do that, or even to be in tune with like, what does my body need right now? How are my emotions running right now? And, just being able to ask those questions, I think sometimes for people like me, and maybe you as you're listening to this, you have a fast speed too. You have a fast pace, and it would probably kill somebody else if they tried to do all the things that we do. But we've somehow gotten it into our heads that it's up to us. Like we have to do those things. And I was actually just thinking about this today as I was showering or I was getting ready, I don't know. And I was thinking about my business and whether that's like the network marketing capacity business or in coaching now or in like digital products, like all of those different things and all of the different things that I've committed to and done on my own over the years, like just really, getting in tune with like, well, why did I go into that? Like, and there's been very clear leading from the Lord and, different ventures and avenues and giving me exactly what I need, exactly when I need it. But there I was just examining too of like, with compartmentalizing my life that I'm working to uncompartmentalize and, step fully like into who I am and embrace this new slower pace. What does that actually look like on a day-to-day basis? Because like when we're building business, like we still have to do stuff, right? Like it's not just gonna like build itself, right? There are still things we have to do, but it's more so moving into this feminine energy, whereas this masculine has this like higher speed and, doesn't really look around and, just gets stuff done and doesn't check in with like, well, what's going on under the surface here? How am I feeling? And like, we need to have both. Like, we need to have both. We need to have the masculine energy of getting stuff done and, showing up. But then we also need to have the feminine energy on the other side of like the creativity and the softness. And like, for me personally, and in who I am, like, I like fun and flowy and flirty and like comfort and, all those things that over the years I've just built this within this like lack of safety and security in who I am, right? Like I've built this high speed because, when you're not dealing with your emotions and you're not facing those things, like a high speed is a good thing because you don't have time to slow down and ask like, how am I feeling today, right? You don't have time to slow down and check in with yourself and where you're at and like where are you at in your head and your body, like all those things. And so these 3 trains really brought that home to me and challenged my perspective on it, because I was looking at it just from this perspective of like, yeah, like super masculine, like of course I'm, finding this resistance because I'm in a hurry, I got to get things done, right? Like I got to check these boxes, when really my perspective was wrong, coming from the wrong direction there. And actually, it was in conflict with the natural world and the pace of things naturally, right? And so like, how does this actually play into business? I think that that's the biggest question I've been asking myself. Like, what does it look like to have a slower pace, but also to show up and get things done in business? And the way that it's been playing out for me is, it's so crazy because like I'm still getting the things done that I was doing before, but I'm just not feeling that tension, that forcing it like I was before. I'm not feeling that pressure, that like self-inflicted pressure of like I have to get like all these things done, because if I don't, then everything's gonna fall apart. Like if I don't get this done today, like everything's gonna fall apart, right? Like, and I know that in my head those things were not true, but I was feeling them very much in the tension in my body. And so what this has looked like for me now is I just am taking more time to intentionally rest, to intentionally check in with my body. And that was an interesting thing that my coach did with me today. Like, she just walked me through this quick exercise of like, sitting down and like just asking yourself questions. Asking yourself like, is my name Chelsey? And then like letting your body like move forward as yes or move backwards as a no. And at first it sounds like so ridiculous, like what are we doing here? But actually it really, like, I think it was the first time that I've ever really checked in with myself, like in my body, and not just through my mind, right? Of trying to like figure it out and think through it of like, why do I want to eat this donut right now? I don't know, or bagel. It's bagels lately, but like, why do I want to eat this bagel right now? And am I hungry? Am I looking for comfort? Am I, sad or, angry or anxious or, like all those different things, like just being able to understand what's going on under the surface so that I can, then go into my head and make a decision, like, but just being able to recognize, like, am I doing this thing because I'm actually trying to sabotage myself here? Or is it that I'm just looking for comfort and security and safety right now? And what's really going on around me that is creating a lack of a sense of safety and security, right? Or that I'm feeling uncomfortable, and just being able to like go through that with yourself. you know, and even saying these things, like, because I've been so high strung, like high speed for so long at like this breakneck pace, that it feels very unnatural for me. And I think that that's a good thing because, you know, I have the tendency, and I've done this for years, that like when I move into like a restful space or state, I would automatically assume and label myself lazy, right? Like, oh, I'm just being lazy today, right? And so it kind of diminished what I was doing, and negated the fact that I needed it. And it's okay to need to rest. Like, God didn't need to rest, and still He modeled it for us, right? And so I think that just through this process, like, it does feel very unnatural for me because for so long I have unnaturally gone against the pace of our natural world and our space, right? And through that, like, forcing, you know, that masculine only energy, I've blocked myself, limited, you know, the expansion, I guess, of myself. Like, that sounds kind of silly. I don't know if that's like the right words that I'm looking for, which is a podcast, right? Words are hard sometimes, even for a podcaster. But you know, just through years of self-protection and high speed and moving too fast to have to process through things, because that means that, you know, it could be painful and that's not safe and all those things. Um, I think that I've, you know, even though I've said like I'm playing bigger and all those things, and I think I was and am, like, I'm not negating anything that I've done over the years. But I think there was definitely pieces in there because of the forcing that really kept me from actually playing bigger, and instead, you know, minimized myself, silenced my voice in the fullest capacity, because, right, like, I wasn't fully being me, I was compartmentalizing. And so, you know, just being able to enjoy things because I enjoy them, and, you know, being able to just go outside. Like today, I was like, I'm gonna go outside, and just starting to notice things more, like flowers. Like, there's weeds in our yard because my husband's not home and the yard is his thing, and I do an adequate bare minimum job making it not look like a jungle, but um that's his thing. And I noticed that one of the weeds had this pretty yellow flower on it, you know, and just noticing that, and noticing, like, there was a butterfly flying around. And it's just like, when you slow down your pace, you're able to look around and notice all of these things that you've just totally been missing, not even ignoring them, but just been missing because you're going so fast. Like, it's like you're driving down the highway in a car, you're going 80 miles an hour, you're not going to see the little tiny flower weed on the side of the road, right? Like, you're not going to notice a butterfly um until you slow down. And then when you slow down, then you actually start to look around. Like, at first it feels very unnatural because you're like really hyper aware. I don't have a I don't have a charger, buddy. You know, you're really like hyper aware of like how awkward it feels and unnatural it feels. But then as you start to embrace it, like, I've even started to talk slower. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, you know, like, if you go back and listen to a podcast episode from like a year ago, I'm talking slower now. And it's interesting. Like, I don't feel like I'm rushing myself and rushing other people. And it's still interesting, like, dynamic as a mom who's, you know, in charge of getting my kids to places on time, right, at certain times. You know, it's not like I'm all of a sudden going to be like late to everything all the time, like, because that's not who I am. Like, I respect people's time and I respect our time, and we're still going to get to places. But I don't have that forceful, like, overwhelming feeling where like I feel the need or just react and like start screaming at everybody, like, hurry up, like, how come you guys aren't ready? And you know what I mean? Like, making the whole thing angry and overwhelming and frustrating for everybody, which doesn't really help the situation anyways. You know, if someone's yelling at you, I mean, has anyone ever actually moved faster when someone's yelling at you? Probably not, right? Like I would probably actually move slower because that's how I am, I guess. And so it's just brought a new atmosphere into our family. You know, I'm not rushing everyone around. Like, you know, I'm still enforcing obviously bedtime. Like, it's not just all of a sudden I'm like throwing all of the structure out the window, like, not at all. But it's like, it's giving me like this freedom and space to be able to be more like flowy and feminine. I guess that's the word, right? And so I would just challenge you that, you know, if you are moving at such a fast pace that you're creating, you know, this overwhelm and tension, you know, this is your train. This is your 3 trains, me, in this podcast, encouraging you to slow down, to sit in the awkward beginning stages of this so that you can get into this freer, more flowy space where it's not that everything is easier. I mean, we're still facing similar challenges every day, like the same things, right? Like I still have to get my kids up and go to school. But it was interesting because we had a short day today, and so the kids didn't have to pack their lunches this morning. And so when I woke up, it was like this, like it was just like this integrated pace of, oh, we can actually sleep. Like I can let the kids sleep and I can go back to sleep for another 30 minutes. And so we did. And then it was so interesting because then the kids actually all got up naturally for the most part, not all of them, but most of them did. And it brought a new pace to our morning. Like things were slower. Like, you know, did everyone get out of the door without fighting with each other? No, we definitely still had some attitudes raging. Not me though. I was very calm and, you know, relaxed through it all. And I feel like a lot of times because of my high speed, because I feel like I need to always be on, because I'm compartmentalizing like being a mom, then I feel a lot of tension around that I always need to be like, you know, on my kids, making sure they're doing the right thing, making sure that their attitudes are right, like all these things, right? But that doesn't really give a lot of space for them to grow on their own or have curiosity or, even just make decisions that are wise on their own, right? Like, you know, so I think it's just given me a deeper sense, like it has given me a deeper sense of self and a wholeness that, you know, it's not even like accolades for myself or like, oh, I'm, you know, like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm such a great mom. Like, no, it's literally just from a wholeness inside me, right? Like I am a whole person. Like God made me a whole person. He didn't just make me a part of a person. Like he made me a holy me. Not holy Holy. That's like holy like WHOLLY, right? Like you get that. I didn't think I needed to clarify, but maybe I needed to clarify. You know, it's like when you are the whole version of yourself, you're able to, like, it just brings this freedom. Like, it's bringing this freedom to me and this joy. It doesn't mean everything's easy, but it just means that I am able to show up in a different way than I have in the past. I'm showing up from a place of rest and peace and gratitude, and just a calm, a calm in the chaos and storms that do come with, you know, 5 kids and all the things. But yeah, it's been really good. So I would encourage you to look around your life too and see, like, do you have any trains? Maybe it is physically a train that's stopping you and slowing you down. But are there other things that are popping up? And, you know, why? Like, is there something that honestly God's created world is trying to get your attention on and highlighting how you are unnaturally moving and things could go, you know, feel different, you know, if you moved along with the natural pace that God's designed. If you found this encouraging or challenging, share it with a friend, and we will talk soon. Take care, guys.